Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Pocket journals are all the rage, and the really nice ones can cost you a pretty penny. Today I'm going to show you how to make them for super cheap using supplies from our sponsor Papermart. You can find them online at www.papermart.com. The thing I really like about these books is you can use whatever paper you want on the inside, and it's got this really neat elastic strap closure that'll keep your book nice and tidy and closed, and all your contents inside. And there's actually going to be room for you to do a little collaging in it because of the way we do the binding. Now let's go to the table and I'll show you how it's done. The first thing you want to do is cut your paper into quarters. So I took the jelly prints I made the other day, and I'll put a link to that tutorial if you want to see it. I just cut my jelly prints down into quarters and divided them into two stacks. One stack went into this and the other one's here. So I used about 13 pages of 8.5 by 11 papers to make two of these little booklets. And this is 110-pound cardstock, but you can use whatever weight cardstock you have. So the first thing you want to do, oh, and I decided on this book, I think I want to round the corners. I left the corners squared off here, but on this one I'm going to round the corners so you can see the different options. I think it'll be easier to round my corners now, and I want a wider corner, so I'm just looking here. I want to go with a 1/2 inch size corner, so what I'm going to do is make sure I keep all these lined up when I punch my corners. I can do quite a few at a time with a corner chomper. Well, that might be a little too much actually, but I just want to make sure that I do all the same corners, so when I go to put it together, it's all the outside corners have been chomped and the inside corners are just square. So go ahead and round all the corners that are going on in your book. Now, it doesn't really matter keeping them in order for this project that I'm doing, but if you did have like numbered pages or already pre-decorated pages that you want to keep in order, I find doing a bunch and flipping them down, upside down like this, keeps them all in order really nice. So now this will take a little more wear and tear than this squared corner book, just because the rounded corners won't bump and get bent and things like that. So what you want to do is take your first page and flip it over, and then you want to pull your next page next to it, and then you want to choose a color of washi tape that you think will go nicely with what you have here. And I've got oranges, pinks, blues, purples, all different colors there. So I'm going to go ahead and use this orange. And the first two pages are the most awkward to get together because they want to move on you. Once you get a few done, it's not so bad. But since washi tape is low tack, you can easily peel it up and try again, unlike, you know, duct tape or other types of tape that might be a little bit too grabby and might rip your paper. You don't have to worry about that with the washi tape. I just try to do half on, half off. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And then I just tear it. Now you could cut it with an X-Acto knife, but I found there's really no advantage to doing that. You can save some time and do it all at the end. I just try to keep my pages lined up here on the edges. Don't worry about the spine will take care of itself. So then and then when you put the next one in, actually that little bit of washi tape peeking out actually holds it a little bit, so that's kind of nice. It's it gets easier as you go. So just keep on adding pages in this fashion until you can't do it very comfortably like this. After you get a few pages down, I'll show you what to do after it gets too thick to carry on with this fashion. But it's the same process over and over again. Just use whatever colors you think fit best with the pages you're doing. Or use plain paper and use all the same color tape. It's completely up to you. Okay, I've got probably about 6 or 7 pages down there, and my stack's about 1/8 of an inch thick. So I'm going to get a gap if I try to just put tape there. So what I'm going to do is grab about 4 or 5 pages and just put them right there. I can bring in as many as I need to make the stack equal what's already there. Alright, and then it gets even easier because I'll just flip it and tape it and flip it and tape it. You'll see what I mean here in a sec. Tape works so much easier in the summer, I find too. I think it's the warm weather helps the tape peel better. Okay, see how they match up really well because I put the extra under there, and also they kind of push up and meet up a lot easier this way too. And this is my second book. I'm much more coordinated this time than I was my first time through when I was trying to figure everything out. But I just got this idea, and I'm probably not the first person to think of it, but I had the idea while I was on vacation that, oh, I wish I could make this book out of washi tape. I think it would be so cool. And lo and behold, it was. So I'm going to replace a couple more pieces under the stack, and still I'm keeping everything in the same order. Not that it matters, but if you are doing a numbered book, it would matter. I'm adding that right under the stack so I can keep on trucking. So keep on taping and flipping, and you'll be good to go. Now when you have all your extra pages under here and you still notice that there's a gap there, what you can do is actually open up your book a little bit and fold it around so that you'll have the extra space you need to kind of bridge the gap there, so you can tape more papers down. So see what I did was I just opened it up a little bit so I got a few more pages over so that I could still keep everything lined up as I taped. And you just keep on going until you've used up every pages, and you move some over just like I did as you need to make sure that it tapes down nice and flat, because you want this to be nice and neat. The more time you spend on this to make sure it's accurate, the better the book's going to look when you're all done. Okay, I'm putting my last page in here, and then we can work on the cover. This is a great way to use up some washi tape and jelly prints, or, you know, regular cardstock. It's a great recycling craft and everything. So I'm flipping that over. That would be the back part of our book. This is already taped in, so then when we open it up, we've got our spine there, and all of our pages match up pretty darn well. And this tape actually gives us a little more room here on our pages, so if you're using this as an art journal and you're collaging in things, or you're using it for a planner and maybe you're adding receipts or ticket stubs, it's going to be able to accommodate some, because this edge is a little bit skinnier than this edge because of our binding. Now, to remove all this extra, I'm simply going to take an X-Acto knife or any sort of craft knife and just kind of saw down through it. You know, see, it only takes a second. That's why I didn't bother to do it every single one, because that would have been a little tedious and it wouldn't have looked any better than just kind of sawing through it here at the end. Alright, so this is our signature. This is our guts, book guts. We're going to set it aside, and we're going to make our actual cover. So you want to have a pair of scissors or a knife that you can cut through a cereal box or a cracker box or something, and we're going to work with the score lines that are already on our box. Okay, so I've got a nice score line there. So what I'm going to do is take my book again and kind of hold it up against that score line, and I am going to trace it. Just going to trace right around that. Then I'm going to go to the paper trimmer, and I am going to chop it out. Okay, so it's kind of long like that. And I'll be right back after I do that. Now, the only thing I want to be concerned with is that this line up here and there is perpendicular rather, to the score line. So I want to use that as the corner of one of my spines, one of my spine edges. Alright, so I've cut down this board, and what I'm going to do is use that same corner rounder to chomp these corners here. Alright, and then what I'm going to do, because I don't want this weird bend in the middle of one of my covers, I'm going to carefully separate here. I'm going to try to separate the glue. If not, I'll just cut it. So I'm going to put this back in here, and then I'm going to mark how deep the spine is. So I'm going to use my marker again. You're not going to see this, so don't worry about using a marker. You don't even need to put it all the way. I just need to have something so I can cut it. I'll put it most of the way just to show you. I know this area is the most accurate. Okay, so I'm going to cut that, and then I'm going to cut the exact same shape here from this piece. Alright, so I'm going to have a front and a back that match. The spine will be double thickness, and that way I'll have a score on each corner. You'll see what I mean in a second. Alright, so I have my identical front and back, and what I'm going to do is glue them together right there so they overlap, and we have a really strong spine, so that won't come apart. Actually, by the time we're done putting all of our layers here, we're going to have a very strong book. And just put those together and let them dry. Okay, I've glued my two portions together. They're dry, and you can see they fit around. Now, if you had a cardboard box that was really cool looking, you wouldn't have to do anything else to the cover, but I want to make it look kind of like the faux leather journals I see that are big bucks at the craft store. So what I've done is I've put wax paper down on my table. I'm flipping it over so I can cover this part, and I'm going to use a product called Yes Paste, and I like this, and whenever you use this, put a piece of wax paper on the jar before you put the lid on, because otherwise it'll probably glue itself shut. It's really, really sticky stuff, but it's really thick, so you have time to kind of work with whatever you're trying to glue together. It's my favorite paste to use whenever I'm doing any bookmaking. I'm just using a palette knife to spread on a thin coat, but you could also use a credit card, an old credit card or gift card if you don't have a palette knife for this. spatula, anything like that. It's not toxic. You'd probably be alright to use like a butter knife too, but having it kind of like a flat edge here really helps. And I'm working on wax paper, so if it goes over the edge a little bit, it's not a big deal. I wouldn't work on like newspaper just because if some seeps over, it might glue to the back side of your project. So once you have a good even coating on there, and don't worry about it being too thick because it will dry eventually, but it'll be trapped in there once we put the paper on. Then you want to take a piece of kraft paper. This is the same stuff I get from Papermart that I use for all my gift wrapping tutorials and stuff. It's just a wonderful paper to have on hand. It's inexpensive. If you don't have this, you could use like a grocery bag. Try to find some without any printing on it. Just get it good and mangled. This will give you that leathery texture. And then just press it right onto your cover. I like to have enough overhang so that I can trim it down nice and neat when I'm done. Okay, I got a little more texture on this one than my other one, so I'm glad. I think it'll look really nice. And just kind of push out to the outside, and that will make any glue really get those edges good. And then I want to paint it, so I'm using some acrylic paint. My daughter thought I should use green, so I've got some permanent green light. And I'm going to add some white to it just to make sure it's nice and opaque. You can use whatever craft paint you have. And be generous with it. I'm going to use a palette knife here to spread it around. But you could use a paintbrush. It's just a little, this is really absorbent, the craft paper, so you want to kind of really saturate that. It's going to absorb it and make it really thick, almost give it like an acrylic skin, but it's going to make that nice leathery texture too. It's a vegan leather notebook. Veggie leather notebook. I think veggie leather might be trademarked, so I can't say that. It's a vegan leather, I guess. I don't know. There we go. Lindsay's leather. Lindsay's leather notebook. Alright, after you've got it well coated, what I want you to do is take a paintbrush, and then a dry paintbrush, preferably. This one I used for my other cover, so I'm just going to kind of pull out as much moisture as I can, and just kind of spread it around. And then since it's about 80 degrees outside, I am going to take this outside to dry. Now by using the brush to spread it around, you get that nice texture from the crumpled paper. There we go. And then I'm going to keep this attached to the wax paper because it's, it'll release when it's dry. I'm going to drape it over a board outside. I found just a wonderful piece of scrap wood to do this with. I'm going to drape it over like that and let it dry, and we'll be back when it's all dry to finish it up. Okay, I have my cover all dried, and the reason I did it on the wax paper was so that I could peel it up and that it wouldn't be all stuck to the surface. And then I'm simply going to go around with my craft knife and trim off the paper. Alright, the cover is all trimmed, so now the next thing I'm going to do is put some washi tape on the edges, and it's going to be a little tricky because I've got a rounded corner to go around and I didn't have that before, so I think what I'm going to do is try to be as neat as I can and just kind of maybe put some corner pieces on extra afterwards. So what you want to do here, and we're going to do this to all four sides, is put your tape on, half off, and then fold it over. You just want to make sure you try to keep it pretty much an even border around on the front. Okay. I'm going to do that for every single side. I'm trimming the corners of the top and bottoms before I go and put on the side pieces to help keep it neat. I'm hoping that I won't need to add too much extra, but if I do, it's not going to be that awkward, hopefully. Alright, let's just see if we fold this over and then trim it how it looks. I think that looks alright. I think it looks alright. You could, put another little piece going corner to corner if you want, but I think I'm happy with it like that. I'm going to do the same thing to this side. Now at this point you want to determine which side looks the best. They might look about the same on either side, and you want to punch a hole on whatever you determine the front side to be, about right in the center. And then we're going to put an eyelet in there, and you can do a contrasting color or, a color like you've been using. I'm just going to grab a green one, keep it all monochrome here. and just set that either with a punch setter, or I've got my crocodile, which I really like because it's quiet. I remember when I first started scrapbooking and my 3 children were babies, I remember I was so bummed because I couldn't set eyelets at night because I was afraid I was going to wake them up. So that's the nice thing about these crocodiles, is it's completely silent. All right, so now what I'm going to do is put a little ribbon bookmark in here, and this beautiful vintage ribbon is from, it's vintage pattern, is from Papermart. It cuts really easily, even with my paper shears, but I'm going to use my ribbon shears because I have them right here. And I'm going to put some adhesive down the center, and I'm using my 3-in-1, which is, you could use tacky glue. I wouldn't use hot glue just because if you make a mistake at this stage with the hot glue, it's going to be really a bummer. So I would use something that will give you a little bit of wiggle time, like this beacon. Aleenes Thick and Tacky would do the same. And then we're going to put our beautiful signature in there. I think I'm going to fold it around. I think that'll be a little bit easier to do. That little eyelet we put in there is for a elastic closure we're going to put on there in a second. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is actually take my other journal I made and use it kind of as a support, because I need to push the spine against the inside of my book and cover here, and then put some tape, and I'm going to use the same tape that I've already used. I think it might be easy. I want to go half on, half off. Now this would be great if you had an extra set of hands, somebody else to help you there. But since I don't, I kicked my kids out of the studio for a few minutes while I finish this up because they started to bicker. I'm going to have to do it on my own. So there, I'm just going to push that together and stick it down. Okay, and then to trim that, let me just give it a good press in there. Make sure it's contacted really well. I love these little books. I think I want to make some blank ones too. I might use one as a planner. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to use it for, but I knew I wanted to make one. I just, when an idea strikes you and you're just like, I've got to make that. I was on vacation. Of course, you're on vacation. You don't have all your supplies, and then you just kind of long for the ones you didn't bring. Alright, I'm just pulling it back enough so I can trim it so it will be flush with the edge of my book. So that's the inside front cover. We're going to do the same thing on the back, and I am going to enlist my other notebook there to help me. This one's going to be easier because I've already got the first side done. Actually, I mean, well, it'd be hard to you could let the spine dry if you wanted. That might be a little bit easier too if you didn't have an extra set of hands. Press that down good. Peel back enough so you can tape it, so you can cut it. And really, I mean, this is like a nice half an hour book project. You can make these up for presents or to sell at a craft fair. I think that they would be a big hit. Okay, so the last step on this is to put the elastic closure. I love the weight of it, the way it feels, this kind of faux leather plasticky cover. It's just awesome. To put the elastic closure on a book, I've just got this elastic band like you would use to make a bracelet with, and I'm going to use a button. You can use 1 or 2 depending if you want something on the outside of your book as well as the inside. Like I've got that cute little flower, but if I put that on the outside, it's going to cover up my eyelet, so I think I'm just going to use that one button and put it on the interior part of my book. So what I'm going to do is feed the ends through the hole here, just like so. Alright, now I need to determine how much stretch I need. Alright, so I'm going to do that by pulling that around. Okay, that's about right. Alright, so just about like that. And I might even, you could even put like a little piece of tape, especially if you had one stuck on your table that you weren't using. I'm just going to stick a little piece of tape there, just so I don't let it pull out too far. And this was all I had left for elastic cording, otherwise I'd say, work from the spool so you don't waste so much. And I'm going to string that button on both sides, and I'm just going to give it a really secure knot. Do a double knot here, and that is all there is to it. I hope you enjoyed this project and you give it a try. I will put a full materials list underneath because I know I was kind of grabbing a bunch of different things and it might have been a little hard to follow. So I will have a list of everything I used underneath, including links to the products that I got at Papermart. I like to leave the tails that way if it snaps or breaks, you got that little extra fix-me room. And so that's the inside. We're going to close that up and I'll show you how it closes. Just like that. Of course, if you're working in your journal, which I hope you will, and you open it up, you can keep your place by putting your bookmark in there, and they're so much fun. What a great gift. You can leave the corners square like you did there, or round it. I think I like the rounded corners better, but it's completely up to you. I want to thank you so much for watching today. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and go check out our sponsor Paper Mart at www.papermart.com, where we make you look even better. Thanks for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.